History recording with Betty J. Goucher, Goucher, 751 10th Street East, number 111, Palmetto, Florida, phone 813-729-4044, at her home on Friday, February the 24th, 1989, and Helen Earley of the Oldsmobile History Center. Tape 1 of 1 tape. Well, Betty, you tell me who you are and where you live, and when you hired into the Olds, we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'm Betty Goucher. I live in Palm Bay Mobile Home Park in Palmetto, Florida. I hired in Oldsmobile May 24th, 1944.
That was during the war, wasn't it?
I was still in high school, and I worked part-time. Well, I worked during the summer.
Okay, what were you doing?
Circulation, or circularizing.
What building was that in?
That was in Building 60,
Building 60.
down in the basement.
Okay, who was your supervisor?
You were going to ask me that.
Was it Joe Davis?
Joe Davis.
Okay.
Marvelous person. Joe isn't living, I don't believe, anymore.
What did you do in circularizing?
Oh, we did collation. We stuffed envelopes. The collation, they do by Xerox machines now. Does all your collating.
How did you do it then?
We would stack the papers on the table, and maybe we'd have 50 pages of something to collate, and we'd walk around the table.
So you'd have 50 piles here.
50 piles.
How many of you would be doing that? Manually?
Probably 6 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went back to high school to finish my senior year.
Now, was this during the day you were working at Olds?
In the summertime, I worked full-time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went back to high school to finish my senior year, I think I went back in September, and in December they called and asked me if I would work part-time.
Okay, now, what do you remember what you were earning when you first hired
I think
him?
it was $75 a month.
75 a month, okay.
It may have been a little less, but I can remember that in particular, 75 a month. Maybe that's when I went back full-time.
Okay, that would be December of 44?
December of 44. I worked nights after school and weekends when I
They were
could.
running a night
Well,
shift?
I would come in maybe at 3 o'clock and work until 5.
Okay.
And then on weekends.
Weekends.
Mhm.
Was
I
this
thought it
all
was.
on war work? Do you remember what subjects you were collating?
Not really.
So primarily yours
But it
was
was war work.
collating. You'd never gone on the machines where they printed?
Well, we printed the metal name tags.
Okay, now what kind of a machine was that?
It was like a typewriter, but they
Okay.
printed these metal
And now how did you do that?
years ago. Well, we just inserted these little metal tags.
You typed right on the
you
metal?
typed right on the metal.
Let's see, now was this a metal roll? Or did you have to put one single piece in
It seems like it was
time?
one single piece.
And that, whatever you typed
That was names and
imprinted?
addresses of employees.
And this
Then-
metal plate then was,
It was used in a machine, but I can't remember just how it was used.
okay.
We moved from building 60 basement to building 28, second floor.
Do you remember what year that was?
That was probably in 45.
Okay, the war was over.
The war ended. Well, I worked up there. I graduated in January of 45. And I'm sure that's when we went up to 28. And then I worked there until the war ended. And of course they had to place a lot of the girls, and I wasn't sure whether I would be placed or not. But they had a teletype, and I had some teletype experience
Where had you gotten that?
at Oldsmobile. Evidently they had a teletype machine in circulation.
What did the teletype do?
Well, when I was placed on a permanent job, we typed receiving slips.
Now, was this for all material that came into the plant?
For all material, I went to work in Stores 1,
Now, where was that located?
and that was out in Building 78. And we typed just for the material. All the stores had the teletypes. I really like that.
This was like a telegram machine that would receive telegrams?
They received them in Building 60
Mm-hmm.
in material control.
Okay.
And
And then over in 78, you were working, typing receipts from the information that came over the
from what came into our, what we received at the docks.
Okay, what type of material was that in your area?
Axles, frames.
Who was your supervisor?
Frank Metz was my first supervisor.
Who did he
Well,
report to?
Now, let's see, I better go back a little bit. I worked for Howard Thompson in Building 36 before I went out. That's where I had my teletype experience. Or not really teletype, but electromatic typewriter, which they assumed would be great for a teletype when they installed them.
What was
Because they had very few electromatic typewriters.
What was the electromatic typewriter? How did that differ from the regular typewriter?
Well, your regular typewriter, you know,
That wasn't the electric
No.
then. It was a standard.
is standard.
So the electromatic was like an electric typewriter
Mhm.
as we know it?
Mhm.
I see.
And that's where, what was that department for Howard Thompson?
But you were
In the engine plant.
in the engine plant.
Mhm.
Okay, so these receiving slips were pertaining to material just...
But that was in Stores 1,
That was
Mhm.
Stores 1. That was in
Building 78.
Building 78.
And Frank Metz was the general supervisor, general foreman at the time.
And who did he report to?
He reported to Vic Brown,
Okay.
and Vic Brown reported to Brandel, Bud Brandel,
And Bud Brandlin was what?
production manager,
Production manager. Now that era was about 1945.
45, when the war ended.
Now were these forms, these receiving slips, were they pre-carbonized or did you have to insert your own carbon?
No, they were pre-carbonized.
Pre-carbonized. How many
They
copies?
came in
did you
2
make?
copies
There were 2, an original and a copy?
and a copy.
Mhm.
And then they automatically would receive them in material control from the teletype.
Oh, I see.
When
Okay.
you would teletype, it would go over to material control.
Mhm.
And I think they used a lot of that for inventory. And then I kept track of the hourly employees in Stores 1.
How many employees would you have in Stores 1?
Well, at that time, we probably had about 50.
And those were all hourly?
All
Did you
hourly.
also have salary?
Yes,
How
we
many
had
salary?
probably 6.
Now, did Metz supervise both hourly and salary?
Yes, well, and they had the foreman under him.
I see.
But he retired, I think, about a year and a half after I started out there. And then Claude Landis replaced him.
Okay. What kind of a man was Landis to work with?
Wonderful. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Metz scared me, but I was real young. But he was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But Claude was a marvelous boss. I couldn't have asked for a better. In fact, did not have a boss at Oldsmobile I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate.
So Stores 1 then received the crankshafts and...
No, that engine plant had the crankshaft.
engine. What did Stores 1 receive?
Axles and
axles.
frames and tires, wheels,
Any other items?
nuts and bolts.
Okay.
Just have to think.
Now, were these materials, these nuts and bolts, they weren't ones that were made at the factory, they were coming in from
They
an
were
outside
coming in from
vendor.
outside vendors.
Okay. So all of the material you received in Stores 1 came from outside people?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't do anything with parts made inside
No.
in your area, okay.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
And
Do you remember any of the suppliers? Like tire suppliers, for instance?
let's see. Goodrich. That's BF Goodrich. I think this has been so many years.
That's all right, we can move along.
Airstone.
Mm-hmm. What
See, we received parts from AC Spark Plug.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
So these were both allied and outside parts?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Frames, Some of them came in from New York, Tonawanda,
Would be that a supplier there or
Supplier.
a GM plant?
supplier.
Supplier, okay.
And,
Did you work more than one shift?
no,
Just
days.
the one shift?
Just the one shift.
Okay.
Mhm.
How long did you work there in Stores 1?
I worked there until, Tuesday. And Vic
Remember-
Brown was the superintendent, and Jerry Sumricks he was his clerk, and he went to transportation, and so Vic Brown asked if I wanted to come up and replace him.
What was your salary
Excuse me.
then, do you remember?
Maybe 100 and a quarter,
Okay.
175,
And that building you were then in was what?
building 40,
Building 40, second floor?
second floor.
Mm-hmm.
Vic asked me to come up, and I said, on one condition, if I don't like it, I can go back to Stores 1. I said yes.
Now this department
didn't.
then under Vic Brown was called what?
Material handling, but
Material?
production management
Material handling,
was,
production management.
well,
Okay. Now who was the production
And-
management superintendent?
Vic Brown.
Brick, I see.
And then Bud Brandel was production manager.
Right.
And then Vic was promoted to assistant production manager, and Howard Kane replaced him.
What kind of a man was Howard Kane to work with?
Very nice, very nice. I had no problems.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, how long did I work for Vic, or for Howard? Howard took over Stores F.
Now what did Stores F receive?
Well, Stores F was not connected with material handling. He received like equipment,
Non-productive
non-productive materials.
I see. Where were they located?
Let's see, they were located in Building 62. I don't know where they went from there.
On the second floor or first floor?
I think they had the first floor
Okay.
in 62. And they had little cribs out in the plant.
Mhm. What would be non-productive material, Betty?
Well, let's see. Probably tools that were used by in engineering.
What kind of tools would that be?
Oh, I'm really not sure because I wasn't really connected with Stores F.
Okay. Okay. We can move along in your material handling then.
And then Howard Kane went, as I said, to Stores F. That was after Stevenson died, I believe.
What was his first name? Do you remember? Bob?
That may be.
Remember what
No,
time?
I don't think he replaced Stevenson. Stevenson died and another man replaced him.
And
Okay.
Stevenson's title then was,
I think he was probably superintendent of non-productive stores.
okay. And then
And let's see,
Kane?
Howard Kane went over.
to replace Stevenson?
No, he
Or
didn't
there was a
replace
man in
Stevenson. There was a
between?
man in between, but I can't think of his name.
Okay.
And Dick Whiters replaced Howard Kane.
Okay, what kind of a man
He
was he
was
to work with?
great, very nice.
Where had Whiters come from?
He came from plant engineering.
Okay.
Howard Kane was general foreman in Stores 5 when he came up to superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
I went in as a typist.
What
Then-
time was that?
Pardon?
What time?
Might have been 1960, but I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it was. And then I had a terrible time trying to get to be a specialized clerk.
What
I
was-
replaced a specialized
Oh.
clerk.
What was your title before you became specialized clerk?
Let's see, I was a typist and then stenotypist and senior clerk and finally made it to specialized clerk.
Now, would that be a 5 level?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That was about 19... 1960,
Well, I didn't become a specialized clerk until the 70s.
1970s, okay.
I really had to work on that. They didn't want to approve it in Mr. Randall's office. And finally, Mr. Burr, I think, replaced Mr.
Floyd-
Randall.
Floyd
Burr,
Mhm.
I believe. Let's see. Dick Whiters passed away, and George Redburn replaced him.
What kind of a man was George?
Oh, he was great. Very nice.
Mhm.
Just kind of left you on your own. Well, I think all of them left me on my own.
Mhm.
And,
What did you do in the job? You were a senior clerk. What was
Mhm.
your responsibility?
kept records of all material handling employees when I
Both
think that
salaried and hourly?
salaried and hourly. We had over 1,600 hourly and about 150 to 175 salaried.
So you kept their time records?
No,
Oh.
I kept the time records on the salaried,
Mm-hmm.
but I kept the personnel records on the hourly.
So what job they were doing?
What job they were doing, every time they received an increase in rate, these cards had to be posted.
Okay.
I had books, I think I had about 5 books for the different stores. I believe we had 9 stores plus truck repair, or 7. 8 stores plus truck repair and transportation and dual therm.
Well, now, these were all hand-kept records.
Yes.
Nothing was mechanized.
No, I put them in the typewriter and
Okay.
type
How
them.
big were these cards?
5 by 7.
Okay. And what information was on the card?
They had address, birth date, social security number, their rate, when they would receive an increase,
What job
what
they
job
were doing?
they were doing.
So-
And then the salary was the same, of course, interviews and what have you. Then I had to keep, for the union purposes, hourly people would put applications in with me for a different job that they would like to have. And I would have to sort them according to seniority. And didn't matter if they could do the job or not, but whoever had the most seniority. And truck repair and transportation was a little tricky,
Why do you
but I
say
can't
that?
remember. Well, they were more specialized jobs and higher paying jobs than the other hourly jobs that we had. And truck repair, we had skilled trades, or skilled people in truck repair, which was in a different class than the regular jobs,
And the regular hourly
than
person.
the regular hourly person.
And you would screen applicants from hourly people from regular positions that really wanted to get in either truck repair
Or
or
transportation.
transportation.
And we had, I had the material handling job applications, and then I would get applications from people around the plant, other than material handling.
I see.
So if I ran out of applications from material handling, then I would go to people that worked in other parts of the plant.
Did you remember any problems of someone? You said this was primarily judged on seniority.
Usually. We used to have problems with the union and transportation and truck repair on.
What kind of problems were those?
That's been a long time. Well, we would go by seniority, but if one had experience, say a semi-driver, then he was looked at before the seniority people. They didn't used to have a truck driver's school, which they do now, or they did when I left. And so we would try and place people who had experience, and then we might get in trouble with the union. Mechanics were the same way.
Okay.
So, and we would place, in the stores they had different job levels. Like we'd have a sweeper, or we'd have, we had truck drivers, and we had people that unloaded the material by hand. Trying to think of what they were called. But we might have had 4 different levels of jobs according to rates from the sweeper, and I think the truck drivers were the highest paid. And they would put applications in, and then we'd have to go. I had to make a record if they had any handicap problems, if they weren't able to do the job, if we felt they weren't able, and we'd send them to medical. It's interesting. I really liked it.
Now, you mentioned any medical problem.
Well, maybe a heart
Yes.
problem, or problems with their legs, or...
Well, most of this unloading and moving material, was that done more manually than mechanically?
That was, the trucks were unloaded by forklift trucks.
Forklift, And material was moved,
By the forklifts.
I see. So there really wasn't a lot of manual moving?
Not really, except maybe when they unloaded the tires. I believe they had hooks that they placed these tires in wheels on that would go right down to the line, so those were manual.
Mm-hmm. What kind of physical problems would you have to screen?
Well, like I say, a heart condition, or
Now, if a person said he had a heart condition, and then they were sent to the Oldsmobile
Medical.
for checking and verification?
maybe some of them would have a heart attack and they'd come back to work, and then we'd have to screen jobs to see what we could place them on.
I see.
But they couldn't displace a man that was already on the job.
Okay.
And maybe we would have them sitting counting nuts and bolts or something like this, just to
It'll be less strenuous.
give them something to do until we found a permanent place for them.
I see. Did you have injuries in your area?
Oh, yes.
What kind of injuries would come up?
Well, one little man was driving a forklift truck, and he had piled, or he had taken gonds. You know what the gondolas were that material came in?
No, not really.
Well, they probably were about this high.
About 3 feet high.
Probably. And they had,
How big were they? 4 by 8?
about like that.
Mm,
And
metal?
on the bottom of them, they're all metal, and on the bottom they had space for the forks to go into these to lift them up.
I see.
And you could pile them 3 high. If it didn't go over the back drop of the part of the forks that went up this way.
Okay.
And this one little man, I think he had 4 on. And one of them started to fall, and instead of him jumping off the truck, he was going to try and hold it up there, and it pinned him to the truck and killed him.
Dear, dear.
And maybe a frame would hit somebody when they were unloading it.
How were frames unloaded?
By forklift trucks.
I see.
They came in on by train.
Okay.
And they were all stacked like this, and then they would take a pile of them, more than one, on the forks, and then set them in the
How many would there
storage
be?
area.
A dozen in a pile? Would there be that many?
Gee, I really don't know. Maybe 8.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember, because see, when they're piled, of course, they come up like this.
Mm-hmm.
So the height on that would be something I really don't know.
So, and then this whole pile of, say, 8 was unloaded by the forklift and
then put in the
lifted off
storage area.
the rail car and put in a...
And then the men would stock the line with them. We received, material handling received everything but the bodies that came in. And I think that the line received the bodies. They had the body drop out in, when was that? 86? Maybe 86. But we didn't receive the bodies. Those were all received in.
Okay.
But all the other material was, except non-productive material, was received in material handling.
Mm-hmm. And that building again was...
I think 36, where the body
36.
drop was.
Mm-hmm.
It was right close to plant protection. What building was plant protection in? The old plant protection.
You got me there.
What's out there?
Then, go ahead.
When they built the Plant 3, I helped Claude Landis set up the office over there.
Now, what
That
year
was store
that?
7. Oh my, I really don't know.
Uh-huh. That was store 7.
Mm-hmm.
And what did store 7 have charge of?
Let's see, what did they receive there? I really don't remember.
Did you then move physically over to Plant 3?
No, no, I just helped him to set the office up.
I see.
I was up in, I think I was working for Howard Kane then. Maybe I was still in stores 1. Have voice problems this morning, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And, I really can't remember what was over there. Isn't that awful?
No? No?
Just draw a blank.
Do you remember when you became a specialized clerk?
It was in the 70s, I believe, but I'm not sure just when it was.
Okay, and what your salary was?
I may have started out as a specialized clerk, maybe like $1,200, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there other women in the office with you?
No, just me. Once in a while, if things got a little rough, when inventory time came around, they'd have somebody help me. Because we had all the inventory cards came up to our office, and then we'd put them together by stores. And of course, they had to count them all, to be sure there weren't any missing.
Tell us about the inventory. That sounds like quite a job. And this was done really manually, wasn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Each stores had a certain group of inventory tags, all numbered.
Now,
And these came from material control.
how did they get those cards? I mean,
They were ordered. I think material control ordered them.
but how did they know what information to put on the cards?
Well, as I believe, as they did the inventory, there was a place for the part number and the name.
So manually, somebody would have, say, a
Mhm.
blank tag,
Right.
and he would manually go into, like, say, stores 1, and write the name of the part manually, the part number, and then you would have to count.
I believe each gun had a tag on it that told what was in the gun and how much. Now, we also had pallets of material.
I see.
You know what a wooden pallet is?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm.
We had material on wooden pallets, and probably all of these had a tag on them when they came in.
That would tell how many
That would
parts
tell.
of a certain
Mhm.
type were in that gun or on that pallet.
Right.
I see. Mm-hmm. Well,
You would lose an inventory tag once in a while. And then it would take days. Well, it'd take a long time anyway.
How did you
Try and find
resolve
them.
that? If,
Well, I had to find them. You always came up someplace, it seemed like, but maybe somebody might have wadded it up. Sometimes we thought it was intentional. It may not have been, but
Uh-huh.
wad them up and you find it on the floor under a pallet, or but they would have to find it. You had to account for every tag. Usually they went pretty smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody might have just misplaced one accidentally, you know, it would be easy to do.
Mm-hmm. So then you had extra people at inventory time.
Yes.
And you kept track of their hours too?
No,
No.
mm-mm. That was all kept track of in the plant.
I see. Mm-hmm.
And when the plant was down, then we'd take people from all over, all departments, who wanted to work. If they didn't want to work in the other departments, then they had that time off, but
So this would be during model changeover that you
Mhm.
did the inventory?
yes.
Okay, why don't I shut this? Go on, back here on the inventory was taken during the model changeover, you're saying. And what time would that usually start and when would it end?
Well, August,
It would start
July and August.
July and August, and then it
I
would...
think that's when our plant was usually down. Now they take it at different times. Usually it was July and August, I believe,
Mhm.
and then we'd start up in September.
So this inventory then, Betty, was all parts except the bodies.
Well, yes, for material handling. I'm sure they
For mat-
inventoried the bodies at the same time.
Yes.
But yes, it was all parts except the bodies. I believe stores F took their inventory at the same time too.
And stores F had the
Non-productive.
Non-productive. So your area was productive only.
Right.
I see. Mm-hmm. What would happen if you came up with a shortage or something? Did you ever run into
Well,
that?
We probably settled it between material control and material handling, trying to figure out what happened to them.
I see.
I don't think we had any real big shortages. I think at one time,
Oh, we're in business.
I think we had problems with tires being stolen. And probably at that time it was easier, the fences, I guess they threw them over the fence and somebody would get out with some parts once in a while, but not very often.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is now. But of course they do receiving slips on computers now. I retired just before they got the computers in my office. I was kind of sorry because I always wanted to learn how.
Yes, what time did you retire?
In November of 80.
November of 80. Mm-hmm. And who was your boss then?
Dick Hahn.
Dick Hahn.
He replaced George Redburn.
Oh, yes.
Very nice young man. I didn't have all that much time with Dick, but he was really a peach of a man.
Mm-hmm. How many people were in your area? Like at one time you had 1,600 in the hourly, and then you had about 150 to 175 salary.
At that time, I think that we had decreased a little bit. It was a little slow, I think, when I retired. So we may have been down to 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 136 salaried.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you see,
When I retired, I was at the forge plant. Our office,
Oh,
superintendent's office, moved to the forge
when
plant.
was that? When did you move?
Well, let's see, I retired in 80. It must have been about 78.
Mm-hmm. Why did they move over there, Penny?
Well, George thought he would be closer to the operations because we had the forge plant stores and plant 3 stores. And then, of course, we had the main plant. And transportation was there they moved to the corner of Rosemary. So he thought it would be easier for him to travel between operations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they were remodeling 34. We went from building 40 to 34. I don't remember what year that was. That was before Mr. Whitehurst died. And we were back in the corner. And George thought we'd have more room over there too. So and then let's see, I think that when Dick Whitehurst was there, he got 2 assistants.
Who were they, do you remember?
Marsh Coolidge. Who was the other one? Isn't that awful? Olaperior, I believe.
Okay.
And then Paul was promoted he replaced Claude Landis when Claude Landis retired out of, what was that, stores? It's down by salvage department.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, what time, do you remember the year that happened? I have Claude Landis' retirement date so that we can check that out. And LaPerrier took over. Okay.
I don't remember the dates that Marsh Coolidge, I'm trying to think. Elmer Fuller came out and had one of the offices, and I used to do some typing for him. I can't remember what he had, though. He was connected with material control.
Now this was still in Building 34?
Building 34.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moved up to Building 60.
Now Fuller's title was?
I don't remember.
Okay. But it was about 78 that you went over to Plant 2.
Mm-hmm.
And
On
we're
the second floor.
Second floor.
I was trying to think of the man's, well, I think they were Dakin's old offices.
Oh, C.V. Dakin.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Right in the corner.
Now, which corner was that?
That was in the north, I don't know, the southeast corner,
Southeast corner.
across from the cafeteria.
Okay. What were the working conditions in Plant 2?
Great. It was, well, they kept our offices clean. The forge plant, of course, is a dirty plant to begin with, but it was very nice. I really enjoyed it over there. It was much quieter
Oh.
as far as people coming and going,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked it very much.
Oh, when did you become a specialized clerk? You mentioned there
In
was
the
a
70s.
problem there of getting that
Well,
ratings.
see, they didn't want to give women any higher titles than they could get away with. They would give them to the men, but they wouldn't give them to the women.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to fight to get it. My bosses fought for me, too.
Now, those bosses were...
Howard Kane and Dick Whiters. He got it while I was working for Dick.
Mm-hmm.
They all, well, even Vic Brown. But production managers' bosses evidently didn't think that a woman rated it.
Mm-hmm. And yet you mentioned that you had replaced a man on one
That was a
job.
specialized clerk.
Mm-hmm. Well, then the type of work that you were doing over in the forge plant was similar.
Same thing.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember any amusing or frightening incidents that happened over there?
Really?
Mm-hmm. Do you remember seeing any of the big bosses come out in Plant 2?
Oh,
that
not so much in Plant 2, but in the main plant.
plant.
In Building 40, Mr. Wolfram used to come in and use my phone once in a while. Of course, the layout boards were out there, and of course, and they were up there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, trying to think of the other man that was up there. I always looked.
Tom Downey?
Tom Downey used to come in. He'd sit and talk. He was real nice.
Now, he was works manager, was
I
he?
think so.
Okay. Uh-huh. Bob Rollis, did you...
Yeah, I knew Bob Rollis.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice man.
Mm-hmm.
He used to come out quite often. Friendly. Very friendly. Mr. Wolfram wasn't as friendly as the rest. I remember Mr. Skinner coming out, but he wasn't there long after I moved up to 40, I don't believe. I can't remember when he retired. But,
Mm-hmm.
Our cook, of course, is very friendly. And he was production manager.
Right.
He must have replaced Floyd Burr.
Oh, yes. Oh, Dick Tracy, did you...
Doug Tracy.
Yeah, Doug Tracy.
He didn't have anything to, well, he did too. Didn't take production manager, did he?
Was he... I thought he... Well, later.
Did he later? It was just a short time, if he did. Or maybe he took it just as I retired. Because Van Ness. Van Ness and then Hackman.
Hackworth.
Hackworth.
Uh-huh.
Now, what is Mr. Hackworth doing?
He's the Lansing manager for the Lansing product team under the BOC. See, they really have two managers. Like Bill Lane is the manager for the Oldsmobile division, and Don Hackworth is the manager for the BOC Lansing.
Then Doug Tracy replaced him?
No, Doug Tracy is production manager.
Well, see, that's...
No, they're two different things.
Oh, I
Tracy
see.
reports to Hackworth.
Oh, I see. Well, then, who's the superintendent now of material handling? Is that still Dick Hahn?
I don't know that, Betty.
Oh.
Because I didn't keep up on
Mhm.
that, and I don't know. But see, there are two divisions there in Lansing.
see.
There's the production division, the BOC Lansing product team, and then there's Oldsmobile division.
And Doug
So
Tracy
there's
has-
two general managers.
And Doug Tracy's one.
No,
Oh,
the one is Don Hackworth, who
Hackworth
heads up
and-
the BOC Lansing product
and
team
Lane.
as general manager, and Bill Lane heads up Oldsmobile.
Oh, yeah.
Tracy, I believe, is production manager, and he reports to Hackworth.
okay, then he replaced Hackworth.
Yes,
I believe.
Hackworth was there in that job at one
Mhm.
time, and then he was transferred to
Well, I think
Canada, I think.
Tracy came in just as I left.
I see.
I'm sure that Hackworth replaced Van Ness.
Could be. Well, Mooney was in there too.
Well, Mooney was not in production management though. Mooney was in manufacturing.
Manufacturing. Right. Well, maybe Tracy's manufacturing manager
was
instead of
thinking-
production.
I was thinking that he went into manufacturing. I didn't think he was in
Yeah.
production management. Would you like some more coffee?
No, thank you. I'm fine. Well, I kind of our department, public relations.
Did you come under production management, or
No,
that was all by
no,
itself?
that was
all
the staff
by itself?
by itself. I kept up on those who were staff heads when I was there, and then
Now, did you work for Jack White, or was
yes, Jack White, and
Did
then,
you replace Jenny Busfield?
yes. Oh no, Betty Leiby did.
Oh, that's right.
and then
Betty.
I replaced Betty.
Betty.
Then Fritz Bennett's came in 1916. I worked with him, and then Phil Workman came in from the central office.
I don't know him.
Well, he came in after you left,
Okay,
82. And then the director of Olds now, PR, is Gus Benz. He
I
was a
don't know
GM
him.
man out of Chicago. Yeah,
There's been a lot of changes.
there certainly have been. Now, you were there how many years?
36.
36. That's quite a record, isn't it?
I really enjoyed working there.
Now, did you, had you planned to retire, Betty, or did you take one of these early opportunities?
I was never given an early opportunity, but my husband had been retired for 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided that I wanted to retire too, and they didn't want me to, but I did, so I took a big penalty for retiring early. With my 36 years, which I always felt kind of bad about, but I haven't really been sorry. I'm sorry that they wouldn't give me the special, but they didn't. So,
Well, that came in shortly after you left, didn't it?
well, see, I was 53 when I retired,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, they gave another one, but I still wouldn't have been eligible. I still wouldn't have been old enough.
You would need 5 more points.
I had 85 points.
Oh, you had
I had my 85 points,
I see.
but they didn't want me to retire.
Oh,
I don't know if I should be flattered or...
I just gonna say, that's a nice compliment. You found the working conditions good?
Oh, yes.
The people,
Very congenial.
yes.
Once in a while you'd run across somebody that maybe wasn't quite so congenial, but mostly, and of course, all my bosses. I never worked for a person that I didn't like. I really was very fortunate that I had such good bosses.
Mhm. Oh, you did your job too, apparently.
Well, I tried.
Do you have something else you'd like to add on our little interview, Betty?
Think of anything work-wise? Do you remember when we used to have entertainment?
Yes, and the Rocketeers and the entertainment at the Christmas parties.
And then they had Barney McCardle band.
Oh, I'd forgotten that. What era was that?
That must have been in the 50s.
Right. That's right.
And the Girls Club used to do quite a bit, too. They used to have the summer parties. Remember when they used to have the hat
Yes.
And then we had a masquerade.
Didn't remember the
Right.
masquerade.
Do you remember
I
that?
remember.
I tried to find the picture because Irene Crum, do you remember her?
I-
Well, Irene Russell now.
I know the name.
She and I went as Smokies, packages of cigarettes,
Oh,
and her husband and Vernon, they made the costumes for us, and we had regular boxes. And they were orange and black. We had the cigarettes coming out of the top. And we were called Smokies, and the O's in the Smokies was where we could, our eyes, so we could see out of the boxes. And we borrowed boots from Plant Protection. So we had, you remember on the commercials on television, the dancing girls with the,
oh yes.
well,
Up to the
we had
knee.
these boots that come up to here, and then these Smokies that come down to here. They were kind of cute. And I tried to find that. So I
Oh,
could get
that
it
would
here.
have been nice. Well, do you have any other pictures or artifacts?
I don't
you
know
think that we might?
where they are.
I understand.
Oh.
Sure, but that certainly would have been a nice one.
And then, of course, the parade. You probably have the pictures of the
The
75th anniversary. I rode in one of the old cars.
Oh,
Eleanor Spaulding had I say a costume, it was her mother's dress from that era that I wore with a little black hat. It was a
Remember
beautiful
the
dress.
model of your car you rode in?
No, I don't.
Was it 23?
Oh, probably the 20s.
Ah, that would have been nice.
It's really cute.
We do have a 75th anniversary film.
I imagine you have it.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure that was open.
Uh-huh.
That was nice.
Were you participating in the Rocketeers?
No,
No, I didn't either. Uh-huh.
I didn't.
Are you ever lucky at the Christmas parties in
Once in a
winning?
while, I would win something.
What did you win, remember?
Oh, let's see. I won a blanket once.
Was
and-
that an electric blanket or?
No, it was from the woolen mills.
Oh,
It
nice.
was a real nice blanket. And I won a toaster.
Mhm.
And someone had donated a magnesium tray. It was shaped like a fish. And then it had a black bottom, so the magnesium tray fit in this lower tray. And you could put hot water or ice in it. And it was filled with cheeses and everything. It was really
Oh,
lovely.
I should say. Very nice.
And, remember the golf outings? Do they still have the golf outings for women?
Yes, but I never was a golfer, so.
Well, I really wasn't either, but the girls used to talk me into going with them. It was kind of fun.
Uh-huh. What course did they play on mostly, you remember?
Well, when I went with them, it was out at Mason.
Oh, yes, Valley V.
I couldn't tell you the name of it. It
Yeah,
was so
I
many
know.
years ago.
Mhm.
That was a real nice outing. Then in the summertime, the lodges we used to go to, or the lakes. You remember those outings?
I didn't go on those.
Oh, didn't
What
you?
lakes did you go to, Betty?
Well, we went up to Whitehall, to a lodge on Lake Michigan. It was lovely. Then we went to Holland, Michigan, to a beautiful lodge there on Lake Michigan.
Now, what would you do? Would this be just...
Oh, they had games and
Mhm. You could swim and...
swim, and they always had a nice lunch.
Mhm. Would this be a day's outing or...
Just a day's outing
Mhm.
for the Girls Club. I don't think they do that anymore.
No, the club is active. They
Is it?
do a lot of things, a lot of charitable work.
Oh, that's
We,
good. They always did do
Yes.
charitable work.
Mhm. They, it seems like it's a very active club from the
Oh, that's
reports
good.
I get. I get information like that, like an employee would. They put us on the mailing list over there.
Do you remember the one Christmas party that we had? And they had like brandy snifters on the tables, and they had water with a chemical with mothballs in it, and a candle in the middle, and these mothballs would bob up and down.
No, I don't remember that.
Mm,
What
that
a
was several
unique
years ago.
thing.
It was
No.
really clever.
Well, I should say so.
So I thought it was so clever, and I went down to the lab. The lab was in Building 40 at the time when I was, find out what the chemical was that they used, and they give me a little bit so I could take it home and try it.
Oh, how neat.
I always thought that was clever.
Yes. Well, we used to have some marvelous entertainment
we
there at
did.
the parties, too. They'd bring them in from Detroit and New York. And
Remember the night of the tornado or bad storm that we had? They kept us overtime at a June dinner.
no, I
Because
don't
of the
remember
storm?
that. I don't
Oh,
recall
it was a
that.
terrible storm. Trees were down.
When was that?
Well, it must have been in about 61. Oh, my neighbors next door, her sister's leaving to go home.
Oh.
I think it was about 61 because we moved into our home in 60. Could have been 62, and we had our place all landscaped. And it took all the fertilizer and everything they put in and washed it down to the neighbors on the corner.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
That was a real bad storm.
I should say so.
You don't remember that?
No, I remember that big snow we had the latter part of January 27th, 1968, I think that was.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
I got snowbound.
Yes, a lot of us did.
Just made it home. I just made it home. I don't know how I made it home, in fact, but I was lucky. And then we were snowed in for 2 days.
Yes, right. Well, Betty, I'm going to shut this off because we've covered a
I
lot
think
of
so.
ground.
I don't know if I've helped you any or
You
not,
have.
but
You certainly have, because you've touched on an area that we don't have too much information about.